Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of the Herschel Talkers. Been on a little hiatus again, but we're going to do National Signing Day part, the old school signing day. On YouTube, Facebook, we're on 4/7. We're on Dog Rant. We just get slammed. It's awesome. Also do the Twitter. So follow us out there. Try to build up subscriptions. We've grown just a little bit, Sean. We got Big Sean. Get those views.
Bonus points for referring to it as the Twitter, by the way.
Twitter. How you doing, man? How you been?
I've been good, man. How about you?
Doing well. Sean got him a new member of the family. Tell us about that real quick.
Yeah, that's right. We adopted a German Shepherd mix from the local animal shelter. So
you got 2 dogs now.
Yep.
Awesome. We're doing the late night session here. So day after, actually, I guess 2 days after. 2 days after National Sign Day Part 2, old school edition, we'll call it. First off, we'll get to the recruit. So it's been a while. Wanted to jump right in and get Sean's thoughts on the OC hire, James Coley. I know it was not Sean's favorite, but just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Say what I think.
I mean, to me, it's like a C+ hire at best. I get people that want to, give him a chance just because, he's a great recruiter or whatever. But the thing is to me, the best indication of success, by and large, not always, by and large, is past history. And so, guy had 3 years at Miami, where, you could basically trip over, bums in the street there that run a 4.340 that you put on scholarship and win some games. And perpetually that offense got worse and worse and worse. I understand that, obviously as an offensive coordinator, it wasn't necessarily the most ideal situation. They've had issues with defense and, I guess the head coach and everything else. But at the same time, he was the offensive coordinator. He's recruiting down there. Had 3 years to get his guy in there, and it kind of fell on his face. I don't really see anything, there's nothing I've really seen from this offense over the past couple of years that leads me to believe that it's going to be a better situation. The other thing, too, is, and I'm not trying to be, overly reactionary to it, but, we talked about it a lot offline, but to me, the way to go, it's been the way to go for probably a decade, is a spread passing scheme rather than a pro-style system. I just think it's easier to teach quarterbacks a system. It's easier to recruit a quarterback for the system. When you're doing a pro-style offense, it seems like you need to pretty much, be in the market for a Porsche or Ferrari engine once every, 3 years. And if you can get it, great. If you can't, you kind of up the creek. So, a lot of people have had criticisms of our offense because of that. Again, I understand running back we've had a lot of great running backs there, but it doesn't necessarily make the most sense given where things are at, in football. If there's an easier way to score more points, I don't really see why we're not about it.
Yeah, I agree. I admit it wasn't the most maybe fancy, attractive hire. I thought it was safe. I'm going to go safe. I see why Kirby did it. He is maybe even a great recruiter, and he's definitely close to some guys previously. Kind of got that Florida area. But I will say we both talked about it offline. Like you said, he's I think he didn't really improve each year, which, as you know, you want to, as offensive coordinator, you want to improve statistically. I think not great rushing. I think his passing offense did improve. He does have better talent at Georgia, but I will say it was safe hire. So kind of is what it is. I know we were looking around maybe at something better. But I'm hoping for the best. Well, here's one I wanted to ask you. You think it was lateral move from Chaney or negative move from Chaney, or how do you see that? Because I know you weren't really a Chaney fan. Even though the last 2 years, you got to admit that the dude did put up some points as offensive coordinator.
I'll say this. I kind of feel like it's a bit of a demotion from this standpoint. Like, right. You look at Chaney, like he may have had issues adjusting, but the thing is wherever the guy's been, for the most part, he's had, runs where he's put up some points, right? Like he did that at Tennessee. We were sitting in the stands in 2012 when, Tennessee's offense with Tyler Bray and
throwing around the field. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were giving Jarvis and Ogletree and Sean Williams, all these NFLers, problems all day long. I don't really see anything in the history books that shows that Coley has done that. So now I'm not really afraid of Chaney by any means either. I think Kirby's going to shut his offense down. But, if you're asking me who's higher on the totem pole, from an IQ standpoint and a point scoring standpoint as a play caller, to me it's Chaney.
Yeah, I do agree on that. And one other point I think they probably looked at this is you've got Jake Fromm coming into his third year. And he did work with Coley last year, and Coley's been there from the start. So I think having that chemistry is important because, you could have had a better hire come in. But usually that first year, you've even mentioned in the past that you got to get used to the play calling, different plays or whatever. So I think that is maybe as safe as you've already got the chemistry with Fromm. Fromm knows the system, he knows Coley. So I bet you they kind of took that in, as a positive.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, they definitely have the athletes. We'll talk about the recruiting. Recruiting is out of this world. I hate to say out of this world. It's very impressive. But hopefully it's one of these where you just got enough talent and he can make adjustments. And, basically I think the theme for next year is you got to finish. You're going to finish against Bama. You get up by 2 scores. Are you going to, step on their throat, step on the gas and not be all conservative like Chaney? You got to learn from your mistakes and you got to finish going forward. And that's what the theme is just got to beat Bama next year because probably going to run into them again.
Well, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this hire is the reason why we may beat Bama. We might beat Bama because, again, they've had some attrition, and I think our recruiting has caused them, depth-wise, some attrition they wouldn't normally have. But it's this hire that's going to prevent us from winning the national title. And, again, I think that the mindset of our fan base has been that just because we've been recruiting at such a high level that there's just presumption that you can just simply out-talent people and beat them. And that clearly wasn't the case last year for either us or Alabama. I mean, you need talent at the right positions, clearly. But the thing is at some point in time, you got to be able to execute and you got to have a better game plan than the other guys. Yeah. It's just not enough to just simply have more talent.
So yeah, just you got to hope that Kirby sees something in Coley that he can make adjustments, and you just got to trust him. Got to trust in Kirby. All right, moving along. Second hire that was important, I thought was a great hire, is Charlton Warren, defensive backs coach coming from Florida. Looks really good on recruiting. Looks like he's a no nonsense guy, military. My only question is he has bounced around a lot looking at his resume, but looking at last year. Against the pass, they were 13th, right behind us. And, as you know, Florida always has a really good secondary recently. So I thought it was a great hire. Just hope he stays. I think it was a 3-year contract, got promoted from, I think it was around $410,000 to over $600,000. So hopefully he's here to stay. He is an Atlanta guy, so coming back home. But I thought it was a great hire. Just hope he stays around a while. My only thing is bounces around a lot, so stability is my question.
Well, yeah, and I can certainly understand that concern, but I do think there's something to be said for where he was at his career-wise. Now, if he's bouncing around from Texas to USC to Ohio State, all right, I get your point. The NFL, back down again maybe to Oklahoma, fair enough. But the thing is, this guy's bounced around from North Carolina to Middle Tennessee State or wherever the hell it was to Florida. And then the Florida to Georgia move was – that was a financial move, plain and simple. We just paid them more money than Florida is willing to pay assistant coaches. So, to me, it makes sense. I don't really get this is kind of a Van Gorder or a Will Muschamp situation where he's just kind of going all over the place.
Right. And then I do thought it was, timely they did come in and they made that announcement on the same weekend. Kerry Elam was in town, even though didn't close on that. Might have been a little bit of a whiff, but we can get into that later. But I just thought the timing on it was really coincidental. But I think it's a great hire. And then we still haven't they still haven't named the defensive coordinator. Everybody keeps saying it's probably going to be co-defensive coordinator with Dan Lanning and Glenn Schumann. So when's your thoughts? When do you think they're actually going to name that and make that official?
It's hard to say. I don't really know. I would anticipate that, barring something, unforeseen, that, it's going to be sometime between now and I would think June. To
maybe
me, though,
spring practice, maybe.
Yeah, to me, and I guess, we always get excited around, when we talk about bringing in new coordinators or whatever. But, I think, the reality is, to me, like, the Sugar Bowl may have been the best, interview or audition for defensive coordinator spot we may have had when, you had, I think, Dan Lanning and, Glenn Schumann that were pretty much handling the duties with Kirby, without the team's best defensive player, arguably the best player, DeAndre Baker, last minute cancellation, best pass rusher, doesn't play in DeAndre Walker, and best defensive lineman, Jordan Davis is out. Oh, and then you have, the sideshow circus that was the Justin Fields fiasco, and that unit kept us in the game. Yeah. So to me, if they were, and by the way, Mel Tucker, your defensive coordinator, will have to take the Colorado job.
Yeah, exactly.
So the thing is, the
fact that 30 days.
Right. Well, the fact that unit they were able to get that unit up and ready to play, albeit in a losing effort, to me, says something. Imagine what they can do when they're not dealing with, a myriad of disasters like they were at that time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I completely agree. I know we didn't really get to touch on previous podcasts. We didn't really talk about the Texas game, but as we know, that was very disappointing. Came out flat. Definitely a lot closer at 28-21 than it was basically that blown out. But Sean was really big on Fromm and Swift was leaders.
Anyway. Right. Let's go into that game. To me, that game is case in point, Exhibit A in what is the problem with our program right now. And I'm not trying to sound obnoxious to the 6 people that are listening to our podcast right now and perpetually bitch and complain. But, and again, I understand that some of it's a bit of picking gnat shit off of pepper, but if there's been one problem with our program or weakness under the Kirby regime, it's that that offense hasn't been elite the way the defense has. The bigger the game has been, it seems like the bigger our defense has played, and it seems like the bigger the game is, our offense tends to shrink into a ball. And to me, that Sugar Bowl is case in point. I thought that the offense, especially in the first half of most games last year, certainly the LSU game, was our Achilles heel. Jake Fromm, he did not look focused, did not really display a whole lot of team leadership to me until that LSU game, when you finally heard, the screams about trying to play Justin Fields, and then all of a sudden he turns it on up through the Alabama game, and then after we lose that, it's like Jake Fromm disappears again, and so does DeAndre Swift, by the way, who coincidentally also decided to show up from, the Florida game through Alabama and then disappears again. So, again, I don't want to make this all about, the issues and concerns I have with the program, simply speaking about who the play caller is or whatever. At the end of the day, those players have to go out and play, and if we're going to take it to that next level, your offensive leaders like Jake Fromm and DeAndre Swift have got to show up for all 14 games and play. You just can't disappear for halves at a time and think that that's going to be sustainable, and allow you to be successful going into this, over the course of the season.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it was just not motivated after being left out of the playoffs. Shouldn't have did any of the Twitter, chat that they should have been in there. Just kind of overall bad luck. But gotta shrug that off. Look forward to the future, even though I hope that doesn't lead into a disappointing season, because some people think of it as the bowl game kind of trends towards up or down for the next season. But we'll jump right into recruiting. So originally, Georgia fans have been a little quiet coming into the second cycle, but they started off Wednesday morning with a boom, getting a really big flip. George Pickens from Auburn, 6'5", 195, 5-star. I was really surprised to see that. But the question is, of course, off the field, is he going to be able to make the grades to get in? Also, Georgia ended up number 2 in 247, which I know Sean follows that closely. He really likes that ranking. But to also sound really good in Rivals, they ended up number 1, even though that's another service. But yeah, get your thoughts on the George Pickens flip.
I mean, it was big. To me, I wasn't really certain. If I was my prediction was that probably he was going to end up staying with Auburn. I figured maybe it would have cooled on him a little bit just because it sounds like, from what the quote unquote insiders are saying, the grades have been a legitimate issue, and I guess from what people had seen, although I don't know really how much you can know from through the first week of February, that he hadn't really shown that he'd really changed his attitude or buckled down on the school and that he was going to be able to qualify. And, I guess we had a similar issue, too, with that DB that we flipped from Bama last year. If we can get him qualified, I think it's huge. To me, it's a real big win. I think from a momentum standpoint, it's really big after you lose both Hazelwood and then losing what's his name? I'm drawing a blank here.
John Emery Jr.
Well, no, the wide receiver. No, not after losing Hazelwood and then also losing Justin Fields to the transfer. Both of those seemed like they were rather
it's a blow to the program, yeah.
Well, yeah, and it was just the way both of them were handled. It kind of seems like they took some shots at our program or whatever. And again, probably idiots in social media and at the grocery store line or probably heckling the heck out of him, and again, their kids or whatever, but just, it's definitely not necessarily the best look. And then, like you said, losing John Emery Jr., but again, he's an out-of-state kid or whatever, so you get that to some extent. But, getting him, I think, kind of got the program going in the right direction. I think it helped soften the blow a little bit from not getting Elam to flip to us or to decide from us, even though we took Florida's DB coach. And I guess the thing, too, is we're still technically, I guess, in the running for Nick Cross. Maybe we get him, maybe we don't. But, I mean, it's always good whenever you when you're able to kind of get somebody like that into your program. Again, it should kind of provide a nice 1-2 combination because you've got that bigger body possession receiver in George Pickens, and then we've seen what Dominic Blaylock can do. I mean, just an explosive playmaker. Take something
really
short.
Good in the, I think it was it was All-American Under-Armour game. Contributed 3 touchdowns. Which you're not playing against a bunch of bums in that game.
No, that's true.
I will say this: looking at more, who reminds me of? So I know Sean's not gonna like this. So 6'5", 2, I think 195. Not a burner. It says like at the Nike Open says he only ran a 4.7. But who reminds me of? And he'll be a big red zone target. You can do back shoulder fade or a fade.
Kenny McIntosh.
He's a little faster than him. He reminds who reminds me of? Maybe quite as big, even though he was great at Florida State. Reminds me of like a Kelvin Benjamin type. I was watching him, maybe without the braids. Remember Kelvin Benjamin, like good ball hawk, kind of could throw it up to him. But he looks like that. He's a go-getter. But here's the question, and it was brought up on Dog Nation. Would you rather had this Pickens guy, or would you rather have Hazelwood?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess
Sean wanted Hazelwood. He's bummed about it, but he thought we had.
I mean,
but he seems a little bit of an arrogant head case to me, though.
But hang on, though. Like when you asked me about his film, I didn't really say that there wasn't much. His film didn't necessarily stand out to me. He just looked like he was bigger, physically more posing than everybody else. To me, it was more about just that head-to-head competition with Alabama to secure the number 1 class, which is probably a really stupid reason to kind of want the kid. Honestly,
Oklahoma probably won't run into him. Probably, maybe in the playoff, maybe.
I mean, very possibly in the playoffs. But I mean, I guess either or. I'm not necessarily picky about it. I mean, to me, it's just, you know, you want guys that can catch the ball in the red zone. So if we can kind of line them up to take over that Holloman position, either one. So, I mean, ultimately, I want guys that want to be Bulldogs, right? And so that are going to contribute to the team and, a positive, non-distracting, cancerous way. So
I do like giving Gus Bus and Auburn the old finger. Giving the
yeah.
old, that's stealing one from them. I think they were butthurt about that one, especially I think he was committed there for 2 years. Another note, I think we were talking about it. Pickens, 5-star in the 2019 class, becomes the first wide receiver recruit the Bulldogs have signed with a 5-star rating since Marlon Brown in 2009. Dominic Blaylock was a 5-star, but for some reason in the final ranking evaluation lost it and was bumped back down to a 4-star for 247 Sports composite rating. So this is pretty big. That first legit 5-star since 2009 with Marlon Brown is George Pickens.
Well, but let's caveat that with the fact that both Terry Godwin and Miko Hardman were 5-star athletes.
An athlete. I know.
But I mean, dude, honestly, like Miko's a 3 and done. I mean, that guy's a good wide receiver. All right. I mean, he was worthy of the 5-star ranking. Terry Godwin, I mean. Not the fastest guy. Maybe he would have been better off defensive back. Wish him the best of luck.
Hey, there he contributed. Pretty good leader this year. Kind of disappeared at times, but yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and the Dominic Blaylock thing doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, why the hell he dropped in rankings? I mean, to me they're both 5-stars. All right, I'm not going to sit there and
I agree.
Yeah,
and do you know that? Why would he drop back down? I know it's not academics. I mean, he had a great All-Star game. I mean, what was?
I think it has to do with the fact that, I mean, I forget how many total kids get 5-star rankings, maybe the top 50. And so clearly they thought there were 50 other players that were at least 50 other players who, merited a 5-star ranking ahead of him. I don't know.
Yeah, and the other good pickup, which much needed because Georgia is lacking at tight end, was Brett Scyther. So 3-star, and we did beat out is down between us and Bama, which is always good. But watch this film. I thought good looking kid. 6'5", 235, got good hands, adds depth. Losing Isaac Nada and then Luke Ford transferring back home to Illinois, so they're a little lacking. So you got Charlie Warner, John. Is it Fitzpatrick?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to have Scyther. And then also rolling into that, they picked up grad transfer. I believe his name's Eric Wolf from Tennessee. Even though he only had 5 catches for 30 yards.
We added a 4-star tight end to this class as well, did we not?
Yeah, I forgot. What's his name? He has. He's coming off a knee injury is the only thing.
Yeah. So you already had, even losing the 2, you still had 4 tight ends coming in, and then it seems like we just added 6 for some inexplicable reason.
Yeah, Kirby likes a lot of depth, so I think we're looking a little better. I think Charlie Warner's going to be your man in this experience.
I love that term, quality depth, by the way, because here's my thing with that, is that I mean, to me, it's not like you're sending them off to war, where it's just like, well,
them off to war.
If they end up dying in the first 5 minutes, as long as they take one of the other sides out, then we can call it even. I mean, this guy could be riding the pine. I mean, if he's not scoring touchdowns, if he's not making quality blocks, he's just a body in a uniform. You know what I mean? So I don't really get it. And I mean, the thing is, it's not like offensively we really use the toe tight ends a lot anyway. It seemed like Nada was most effective when or had his best success either in the 2-minute warning or down near the goal line, right?
Right.
Like, so to me, like, maybe this kid ends up being a contributor. I certainly hope he does. But at the end of the day, like, he just might be a name on the roster that, 6 months from now we're going to forget about. And be like, oh, yeah, I forgot we picked him up in February or whatever. And, oh, yeah, I forgot we got that grad transfer. Wolf, who's going to count against our 2020 number for some inexplicable reason.
Yeah, it could be. He might be another like Jackson Harris. Remember, we're waiting around for him to be in there. He might have been there only for blocking. So, hey, it is what it is. But Also, another impressive stat I think we mentioned is Sean probably likes this too. Is you got pretty much the top two players out of the state of Alabama with Clay Webb and George Pickens, 2 5-stars. I thought that was really impressive, stealing those away from Alabama and Auburn.
Yeah, that really is. I mean, and it wasn't all that long ago that it was seen to be damn near impossible to get, a player that both Alabama and Auburn wanted to cross that state border into Georgia. It seemed like the Florida schools had, success doing that, but for some reason it's almost like the Iron Curtain, man. You just couldn't cross that son of a bitch to save your life.
I feel like we're stealing away from Alabama. Next is if there's any way we can get into Louisiana and steal some of them Cajun kids, man, that's real tough. I know we had a shot at John Emery Jr., but I think that's maybe one. There's some way we could maybe steal one from them eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then most recently, breaking news, I think it's probably happened in the last couple hours, got another grad transfer from Miami, the U, grad transfer Lawrence Kegger. 6'5", 218. We're looking at the film a little bit. He did lead. He was second leading receiver for Miami this year, even though Miami, what were they, 7-6, 7-7, looked terrible in the bowl game with Mark Richt. But he did have 6 touchdowns. Could be like a good red zone target. So another added depth, 6'5", 220. He did have 18 career starts for the Hurricanes, so he does have experience. So, what's your thoughts on that, or is this another just quality depth like what you were talking about?
Well, and I mean, to be fair, I haven't seen either Eric Wolf's films or this 3-star tight end that we signed. I saw some of this Kegger kid's film. It didn't look bad. I mean, he might get out there and let's be honest, he might come out there and maybe make, 10 catches for us next year. Maybe he'll score a touchdown. But who knows? I mean, that touchdown, might be the difference between, a win and a critical loss. So.
Hey, could be down in Jacksonville, man. We're down, down 3 or something, and this Kegger kid gets a back shoulder fade in the end zone. We'll love him forever then, right?
That's true. But I'll say this, though, too. Just kind of keep in mind, there's a reason he's not going to the pros, right? Or he's not having his draft eligibility reviewed. I'm just saying.
That is a good point. So, speaking of that wide receiver, who's probably going to be – give me your top 3 for next year you're looking at. We'll probably look at this down the road maybe for spring practice. Who you think because they lost a lot.
Well, I mean, I think number 1 remains the same. That's Holloman, right?
Right.
I think number 2, I mean, it's tough. It might end up being Dominic Blaylock, could be, although it seems like – for some reason, it takes, at least in Kirby's system, their wide receivers maybe a year or 2 before they're really, seasoned enough to play. Not necessarily the case, but it certainly took that way with Holloman.
Right.
Although he showed flashes as a freshman. I think probably your number 2. It might be Landers. You might finally see Landers.
How about D-Rob, man? Your boy D-Rob.
Well, hold on for that.
All right.
I was going to caveat with saying that it might also be, D-Rob as well. I'm just hard-pressed to think that a guy as talented as him, doesn't either. If it's not this year, then it's 2021 that he kind of finally puts it all together. He showed flashes of it last year. I mean, he had 2 major reverses, one of them for a touchdown. He's clearly got the speed and ability. It's just
dude, he didn't catch a pass the whole year. He's a wideout. He's taking reverses. Come on, man.
Well, but again, part of that is he was kind of running the plays that were designed to him. I think he had some injury issues as well. We knew that coming in. I think the talent's there. Let's just I just think he's too good of an athlete to keep off the field. Could be wrong. There could be more going on there than meets the eye, but I think that I think he'll be in there, and if not, you probably get some Blaylock and some Tommy Bush, and hopefully some George Pickens. I mean, and it may be a situation where we're playing, where you're kind of having outside of Holloman, you're having kind of a regular rotation of guys until you figure it out. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna throw a name in there that they mentioned. I don't know if he got redshirted or he was decent coming out of school at 4-star. What do you think about Curious Jackson? Maybe kind of like a speedy Miko replacement. What do you think about him? Is he pretty?
Yeah,
He looks
that's
good,
what I'd
right?
forgotten about. Yeah, I mean, I think he's really good. And again, that's kind of my point too, with not necessarily expecting too much from Dominic Blaylock, and I guess maybe George Pickens for that matter. It just seems like, again, it takes some of these wide receivers a little bit of time before they see the field.
Another guy, Tyler Simmons, blocks really well downfield. He's definitely real speedy. So yeah, he'll be in there a lot, especially on the blocking downs and running plays.
I mean, not that that's. I mean, I guess it's important, but come on, man. When we're really talking about wide receivers, I think by and large everybody's primary concern is can he catch the rock?
I agree. Let's see, and then we'll talk about a couple of the negatives, maybe a couple of whiffs. So, Kerry Elam, defensive back, it was down probably between us and Florida. I know we had a really big push. What were your thoughts on that? And then also, do we have any chance with Nick Cross, who delayed his decision for some reason?
Yeah, I mean the Elam one was kind of that was obviously a bit disappointing, but at the same time, his brother Matt played at Florida, so he had the legacy thing coming in, and
Actually, that tight end is Rylan Gold. Looked him up.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I guess you can't necessarily win them all. So, I mean, it would have been nice to have had him. But, yeah, we still got a chance with Nick Cross. He didn't sign with anybody yesterday. So,
if you had to pick a lean, who would you? Well, from what I was reading, I think he likes Penn State.
Well, I mean, from what they're saying, it seems like that's maybe what his parents kind of like. I mean, he came back down to Georgia for an unofficial on his own dime. So, to me, I just don't see him necessarily doing that if there's not an interest there. You know what I mean?
Right. All right, let's see. And we can go over a little bit. So Georgians up number 2 on 247. Bama was number 1. I'll throw some of the rankings out. Texas number 3. Texas A&M number 4. LSU 5. Oklahoma 6. Oregon 7. Michigan 8. Florida 9, and the defending national champs Clemson quietly at number 10 had 29 commits. And I don't see how they do that, and they only had 1 5-star. Gus Bus at Auburn at 11, and Tennessee with Pruitt at 12, which I thought's definitely pretty good for them, and they had 2 5-stars. So I want to get your thoughts on some of the other team rankings from the recruiting class.
Well, I mean, I think that Pruitt is, the fact that he's able, and we've said this several times, he started out recruiting really well at Tennessee and obviously was able to, maintain those guys and keep them committed, despite not having the most successful season. So to me, that was big. I think the fact that Florida made that run at the end, obviously you do need athletes to win. You need good football players to win. And so, that hopefully will translate to success for both of those programs. So
I will say this, though. Florida, 0 5-stars and 17 4-stars. We're sitting over here with 5 5-stars. I just got a feeling at the end of the day, that might make a difference in the game, right?
Oh, I mean, for sure. Yeah. Again, and it's just, but they've got to start someplace. I mean, their recruiting class last year was such an epic disaster. Anything's better than where they were at, right? So,
and then since we were number 2, so we had composite compared to 247, 308.98 compared to 2018, which was number 1 with a 323. What do you see maybe the differences and the pros and cons of this class maybe compared to last, because they were really similar and probably the 2 best on record recruiting classes Georgia's ever had, correct?
Correct. I mean, I think the prominent difference number-wise comes down to just the number of people we took. I mean, we only took 24 this year. What did we take, like 28 last year?
I'm looking at it now, it's 26.
Okay.
And we had 7 5-stars, which is crazy.
Right.
Last year.
And then we had how many this year?
Yeah, it says 5, and is that counting? I don't know if that's counting Blaylock or not with that whole thing, which is weird.
Yeah, let's I guess we can take a look and
Yeah, I got it right here. I was looking at. All right, you got Nolan Smith 5-star, N'Kobe Dean 5-star, Clay Webb 5-star. That's 3. Trevon Walker 5-star, George Pickens 5-star, and then they knocked down Blaylock. So let's just say 6, just for us, because we know Dominic Blaylock's pretty damn good. So I'm gonna say 6, even though.
Right.
Yeah. Which is impressive. So you're basically 1 5-star off, and then we might have had some more 4-stars. So I mean, just the landscape, like Kirby is doing. I mean, he's kicking ass, right? He's doing great on recruiting, and you got to give him that pretty much A+, right?
Oh yeah, I think without question, he's doing a phenomenal job. I think to get back to your original question about how you kind of compare the classes, to me, if there was kind of one criticism maybe of last year's class where I think we did better this year was the defensive line position. Obviously, Jordan Davis came through and played well, but after last year's class, I think we're hoping to maybe have a few more defensive tackles lined up inside that we didn't sign. And so to me, this year, the fact that we got, obviously it starts with Trevon Walker, and then you've got Bill Norton and, Mitchum and some of these other guys. I think you got a lot of quality depth there. And it's nice, too, because you don't necessarily need them all to play right away. So they'll have time to kind of, learn the system and develop, and you're kind of bringing them in at the right time. To me, Nolan Smith, I think is probably a better pass rusher than anybody we brought in last year. Although, I think clearly, Adam Anderson and, some of those other guys are going to end Quay Walker.
Kendall.
They can rush the passer well. I think last year you probably had a little bit more depth as far as the inside linebacker position goes, maybe, or you had, I guess, bigger names. You had a couple 5-stars, I guess, with Quay Walker and Channing Tindall. Channing Tindall certainly played a lot this year, and it looks like he's going to, be a force to be reckoned with. This year, I think you probably added a better overall inside linebacker, certainly on paper, in N'Kobe Dean, which is quality depth. But you also got Tresman Marshall and Trouble Davis. Although Trouble Davis got the knee injury, I think those two are also going to be.
So who's going to be your probably number 1 pass rusher? I mean, we need a guy that can maybe come in and maybe get close to 8 to 10 sacks realistically. Who you think's who's going to be the man to make a push?
I think it's probably going to be a combination of Brenton Cox and Adam Anderson. It's where you're going to kind of get that. I think a year into the system, both of those guys are probably going to put on enough weight. They're going to get used to it enough that because
you think Nolan Smith's that good right away to make an impact? I mean, he's number 1 overall recruit. They don't grow on trees, right?
He certainly could be, but again, like for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem like the pass rushers come in right away and are able to just, take over games. Out of high school. It doesn't seem like their game directly translates as easily as maybe like a running back's or an offensive lineman's does.
Right. All right, then also looks like it happened today, later in the day, and it was confirmed. Justin Fields, former quarterback, of course everybody heard about it at Georgia, is eligible for the 2019 class at Ohio State. Want to get your thoughts on that? I thought it was a little weird. I know they probably played the whole race card, but I was just like, I was talking to Mom earlier when I told her about it. Like Jacob Eason, same situation, sat out a year, right? I know he didn't want to have to go to Washington, home state, and sit out a year. I mean, I think the kid should have sat out a year, but I know it's like he wants to play right away. So what's your thoughts on it? Because I mean, look at Eason, same situation. He got kind of penalized, or he kind of had to do it the honest way.
I mean, I think part of it's a byproduct of their culture and how they were both raised. To be completely honest, you can take that however you want to, but you can certainly take it to the bank as well. Although I'll say this as well, I think the whole idea that these kids need to sit out a year makes no sense if you're not making true freshmen sit out a year or redshirt to kind of give them a year to adjust to college. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I think if you transfer, and you're eligible to play, you're eligible to play. I don't think it should have to be conditioned on you needing an extra year. I mean, that rule just doesn't make any sense. I'm sure you can make some type of argument, but it is what it is to me. I mean, if they can play, they can play. Let them play.
And make a bold statement. Do you think possibly we run into Justin Fields in the playoffs the next couple of years?
I mean, possibly. And time will tell how good he ends up being. And it might have been like a Matt Stafford situation as opposed to a Tualele or a Trevor Lawrence type situation where it takes him a little bit of time to develop and to kind of come into his own, but he'll be great when he does. I do think his attitude is going to by and large dictate how successful he's going to be. Again, I think the fact that, regardless of what anybody told him or not, I mean, hey, he might as well go ahead and transfer, but, and I guess there's not necessarily a great time to handle that or whatever. I mean, yeah, we can certainly run into him. I mean, again, like Ohio State did just lose Urban Meyer. Like, let's wait and see how good this guy ends up being, his replacement. I mean, they might end up going into the toilet bowl, so you just don't know. I'm certainly not afraid to play him. Even in this day and age, you really don't see a quarterback that just single-handedly beats you.
Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, like, honestly, though, Alabama's secondary was bad. You know what I mean? It's not exactly like they gave him much of a fight.
Yeah.
So.
And then we'll give it to, even though one of the more boring Super Bowls I watched, we got to give it up to our boy, Sony Michel, getting a Super Bowl in his rookie season. Had 18 carries for 94 yards and the only touchdown. So bravo to him. Also, kid, great on the mic. On Jimmy Kimmel the other night. I thought he was really good, really funny. Good kid.
He was so close his last year at Georgia to win a national title. I mean, good kid, stayed out of trouble.
Third leading rusher, I think, ever.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Congrats to him, although tough luck to Gurley as well. First of all, hope he's healthy or whatever. It kind of was odd the way he was handled towards the end of the year and the playoffs and Super Bowl. But, certainly says a lot about the quality of talent we've had at running back. If we had two starting running backs in the Super Bowl that are both recent dogs. So.
Exactly. RBU, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll end on this. One more thought. Champ Bailey getting nominated for, I believe it's first ballot, right? Hall of Famer.
That's right.
Looking back on this, 1999, round 1, pick number 7, which I think's always great, top 10 pick. Most of his career with Denver Broncos from 2004 to 2013. 12-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro. NFL interceptions leader in 2006. He was, all kind of accolades and stats and awards. So, yeah, get your thoughts on Champ Bailey. Also, Chip Towers, big time analyst and reporter for Dog Nation, just said best athlete he's seen in all of his coverage, and he's been covering Georgia football for over 20 years. So, get your thoughts on Champ Bailey.
It's certainly justly deserved. Another guy who it's amazing with this day and age and with having these 24-hour news stations.
Staying out of trouble.
The fact that he stayed out of trouble. Always was very pro Georgia. I'd see him when he'd come back in the off season to work on his degree or whatever, and just extremely nice. I mean, he could tell we recognized who he was, and would just kind of give you the little finger point, like, "Hey, what's up?" And just a great ambassador pro football, and he did his thing, and congrats.
Right. Yeah, and speaking of that real quick, here's a question that we were texting last night about it. Of course, Herschel Walker, probably all-time number one great, hands down. In our lifetime, or maybe since the 80s or even the 90s, who would maybe say best Georgia Bulldog pro player since Champ Bailey was just nominated? I know you were mentioning Terrell Davis. Would you put him in there, up there too? In the pros.
I mean,
pro dog.
To me, number one, it's going to be a Champ. To me, Terrell Davis, he's probably number two just because of the fact that, he did have that 3-year cycle where he's probably the best running back in football. And, I think that second Super Bowl, he's probably the best player in football. Obviously, knee injuries after that kind of derailed some things for him. But, he's got to be up there. I don't really know who else you could kind of put in there. I mean, I guess Richard Seymour. I mean, he made 5 Pro Bowls for New England, I'm pretty certain. I mean, he should have a decent shot of being Hall of Fame material eventually. AJ Green, I mean, he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer as well. I think he's probably already eligible at this point.
Probably your greatest wide receiver, Georgia guy, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Geno Atkins may have a chance as well. I don't know what his numbers have been like recently, but I know for a while they were just kind of on a tear.
Georgia's got plenty of them, all right?
Well, and Gurley, right? I mean, that's what's crazy to me is what he's made. How many Pro Bowls now? 4?
Yeah.
4 Pro Bowls. He was Offensive Player of the Year last year. If he gets another Pro Bowl, I think that pretty much puts him in that cements his Hall of Fame status, probably.
I'd end up being better than Terrell Davis if he gets him a ring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Geno Atkins played 7-time Pro Bowler, two-time first-team All-Pro. Pretty damn good too.
Yeah, so that's a Hall of Famer right there. I mean, I think typically the magic number is 5 Pro Bowls.
Yeah.
So,
and he's been at another thing is round 4, 120th pick, which is crazy, and he's been with Cincinnati the whole time.
I mean, right. I mean, it's just the amount of talent that we pissed away in those Mark Richt era. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And another one, I don't even have to look him up too. Justin Houston's killed it too at Kansas City. Remember, he's gotten paid too. He's been good.
Yeah, see how many Pro Bowls he's made.
Let's see, Justin Houston. How about this? Would you say, when I'm looking up, would you say Stafford's the best, probably Georgia Dog quarter QB?
In the pros, yeah. I mean,
or is he?
No.
Is it Tarking? Which one of them was really good?
Fran Tarkington. I mean, yeah,
killed it.
He played in 3 Super Bowls. He's really kind of considered to be the first modern scrambling quarterback. Again, I know it's probably before. He certainly retired long before I ever watched football. But I mean,
yeah,
highlights.
And 4-time Pro Bowler, pretty good too. First team All Pro in 2014.
Yeah, so if he can get another one under his belt, he's probably there.
Getting a little hurt too. A little banged up. Man, I didn't know him. He went to Statesboro, Georgia. Statesboro High School. I didn't know that. He was round 3, 70th pick in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Well, thanks for joining us. A little late night session there, Sean. We got a little recruiting. Possibly could have we'll have the spring game preview coming up. Maybe look at some of the different positions. But as of now, it's going to be a little quiet coming up. Maybe we'll finally get that defensive coordinator named. But not really anything interesting going on. The men's basketball kind of got awful this year. Tom Crean, even though they're working on a crazy 5-star everybody's talking about for next year. I don't know why. But, kind of slow time.
That's right, man. Time to go hibernate until I guess August, right?
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. Please follow us and give us some comments. And we're the Herschel Talkers, and we're out.
Yep.